It's time for Halfway Full, a mental wellness podcast pouring insightful discussion, sound advice, and great tips into your life. On today's episode, Associate Counselling Psychologist Racquel McCarthy walks us through the importance of support groups. Halfway Full starts now. Welcome to another episode of Halfway Full. So we've been talking a lot about mental wellness and just some of the things that we can do individually to improve our level of mental wellness. But there's some things that we can do collectively as well. People talk a lot about support groups, surrounding yourself with the right people, who's your tribe. We hear all of those things over and over again. So I'm glad that I have with me Racquel McCarthy because she's going to walk me through the importance of support groups and how those work. Hi, Racquel.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Not a problem.
So first of all, people say it all the time. Why do we, though, need support groups or teams around us?
One of the things that teams does for us mostly is that it strengthens our internal locus of control. It gives us a sense of belonging, and it encourages us to be free enough to be ourselves and to explore our options in meaningful ways that help us to gain some levels of confidence in exploring what our possible options are.
Mm-hmm. But we have to be careful, though, when we choose who the members of the team are.
Indeed, we have to be careful. We need to choose individuals that are on the same page as we are, but we also need to know what page we are on so that we can identify who are the individuals that we need to have to give us the kind of support that we desire to have.
So you want us to start there, because I find a lot of times when I talk to counselors and therapists, they say self-awareness. I mean, it's a self-awareness. It sounds so, I don't know how to nail it down. Mm-hmm. So finding out who we are first.
Who you are, where you're going, what is the methodology you want to have to take you to where you're going, what's your timeline that you're thinking of getting where you're going, and so that will help to determine your support system.
Mm-hmm. All right, so, because I say to people, listen, if you're a kind of person that loves to procrastinate, don't put somebody in your team that loves to procrastinate.
Precisely, because you will not get where you want to go.
So let's talk about the two things. Let's talk about the complementaries and the opposites. So who do I need in my team?
You need someone who first believes in you. You need someone who will hold you accountable. You need someone who you are free to be yourself with. You will not have the kind of support system, or you will not benefit from the kind of support system if the individuals that you have as a support system you are not free to be yourself with. Mm-hmm. So you need to be free to be yourself. You also need to know, like I said before, where you're going, how you plan to get there. You need to have someone who is unafraid to drape you up, and I don't mean that physically, but to drape you up if you need to reprimand, to scold you, to say you're behind, you've been procrastinating, you're lazy, I see more in you, who can pull you along, push you along, but at the same time encourage you. So we don't want you to have someone who is going to encourage you in a way that by the time you finish getting the encouragement, you say, yes, this is what I need to do, but you feel so down. Mm-hmm. You want someone who says, this is where I see you, this is what you said you wanted to do, this is where you perhaps need to go, and help you along in your timeline. So within the next month, this is where you ought to be. And keep that accountability relationship friendly, determining, make demands from you, but demands that are within reason of what you are capable of doing.
You need a helping hand, you don't need a hammer.
No, that's correct.
You don't need a hammer. And I'm glad you said that, because sometimes people say, oh, it's tough love.
But you don't want tough love to turn you off. You don't want tough love to turn you off, or else you won't want to love any at all. You want tough love that builds you, that empowers you, that builds your self-esteem, your sense of self, and cause you to be more aware about your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yeah. So avoid the hammer.
That's correct.
I believe in that. I'm going to avoid the hammer, because a lot of people tell you, I'm being tough for your own good. But at the end of the day, it's not good. It's not good.
Well, they mean well, but they have not communicated love, and you have not received it as love, even though what they intend to do is really cause you to feel loved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so you need the helping hand, not the hammer. So you need that person who's going to keep you accountable.
Right.
Because, boy, I tell you, the entourage is a funny thing. Like, sometimes I see some of the DJs go out and play music or perform, and the whole crew with them, when they're performing, they're yay! And the rest of us are like, what is he saying? What is he playing? This is so boring. Mm-hmm. You don't need the entourage like that in your life.
No, not at all.
Yeah, don't need them to keep telling you yes.
No, what you want is people who can be real with you, people who will just tell you who you are, or where you're going, or where you're likely to end up, and at the same time be truthful, tactful, and loving.
Can these be people that are not necessarily in my immediate circle? Like, can my support team be a pastor, be a counselor, be just someone in the community?
Again, that depends on where you are going, who you want as your support system, how you plan to get there, your timelines. So your support system can be many different individuals. You can have a pastor, you can have a teacher, you can have a counselor. What is critical is that you need to be able to be candid with that individual and to be your very best self. All right, so your very best self is not a put on. Your very best self is just being free to be you. To say, this is my weakness. Yes, I know I should change. I'm having a struggle. I want to change, but I tried it last week. It didn't work, and I feel like what I used to do is much better, but I still desire to change. Help me along the way.
Yeah. How do I cultivate that kind of group around me? Because I think you attract a certain type of person too, and so you may tend to attract people around you who are exactly the people you should not have. So how do I cultivate the team that I actually need?
That is, again, dependent a little bit on you. And a little bit about how serious you are. Because if you're really serious about getting to a particular place, then you will realize that I do have some friends. I really do prefer them. I really do enjoy them, but they are not the individuals that can take me where I want to go. They are not the individuals that are pushing and are motivating me in positive ways that will help me to be a better individual. So how do you cultivate that? So you can cultivate it from a therapeutic process. You can cultivate it from having an accountability partner. You may want to start first with just one accountability partner. Sometimes when something is new to you and you're just trying to get used to it, the process of change is a little difficult. It's new and you're not as willing as you thought you should have been to work with the process of change. So one of the key things that you need to do is to start with one person first, and then you can look at how you can expand that group over time. You will find that you will need different persons at different stages of the life of the process. So you might find that you need a teacher at this point, but next person you need is a guidance counselor, because you've now bucked up into an area, or a therapist into an area where you had a difficulty, where you had a previous failure, where you have a fear of that failure that is hindering the progress that you need to make. And in that instance, you need to now process that fear to be able to get past it, because it's a fear that you need to walk through to get past so you can move to the next level.
Yeah, it's interesting because we spoke earlier with Kenisha Mattis and Camille Steer when we were talking about financial management, and a lot of what they were talking about was auditing where you are. And I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, you need a friend audit. You need to seriously sit down now and say, okay, so this is my friend. In this time, how supportive were they when I needed this? Were they able to move me to that next level? Or were they the one where I said, boy, I have exam tomorrow, and them said, you can't drink more drinks, man, you can't study later. So a friend audit is important.
Yes, that's important.
Wow, that's a tough one though. Racquel, because I think some of us, depending on how the friendship was forged,
that too.
We kind of afraid to say, so you're great to hang out with, but in terms of where I want to move my life to,
and that's
you're
correct.
maybe not the best friend for me.
Actually, you're a bad pair. All right, and we're not open to saying those things because sometimes also we haven't seen it being modeled by the older folks.
Yeah.
So we have a tendency to be accommodating and facilitating rather than looking, okay, I can accommodate you this evening, I can accommodate you tomorrow, I have exams the next 2 days. You are not the person I need to be connecting with. I need to connect with my book. I need to connect with my study group, if I have a study group, or I need to connect with someone who can tease me to let me know exactly how much of the information that I have studied I can retain, recall, and apply for exams.
That's a great example, because I found that even in my experiences with studying, when persons who are aligned with this is the goal I need for pass this course, and I'm looking for an A, and they find people who have that same kind of thinking, the A is sure.
It's more real.
Yeah, the A is sure. But when you just say, oh, come, it's all kinds of push and pull, and you probably never get to where you want to go. And really, that's how you have to apply it to life as well. Find the persons that will take you where you want to go. How often or how consistent then? I'm thinking, okay, I'm putting a group together. How consistent should I be in terms of how I relate to them or how I involve them in my life?
A lot of that, again, it's an individual. Everyone is different. And it's an individual issue. So if you're an introverted individual, you may not really need a support group. You may be able to motivate yourself. You may be able to do the things you need to do. You may have your own fire, mental fire, that keeps the rest of the fire going. But if you are someone who is an extrovert and you really just enjoy having other people connect, then you are the kind of individual that your support system is critical for you, because that's what propels you to the next level. And so who you are and what you are, a lot of that determines what your support system is going to be, and again, where you're going and your timelines. So those are critical things. If you're going to look at determining who you would put in your support system, is going to be directly linked to your goals, your vision for life, your timeline, where you're going, how you plan to get there. A lot of us have ideas as to where we're going. We have no plan as to how we get in there. There's no timeline either. So you started off a dream at, let's say, 18, 20. But you didn't have a timeline, so you're reaching this dream at 55. But you could have accomplished that dream by the time you were 30. But you didn't have a timeline. So setting the goals, and the goals need to be smart. They need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be attainable. They need to be tangible. Setting those goals determine how far you get. And you need to break down those goals. You have the short term, you have the long term, you have the medium term. And that will help you to determine. So in the whole process, you are monitoring, you're measuring, you're having someone that's accountable. And when you make those goals and make those timelines, you want to have that accountability partner or your support system keeping you there. Now, if you have persons in your support system who are not going where you are going, who are not as focused as you are, then you're going to have a tug of war, because they are going to serve as a distraction from where you want to go.
Absolutely. And I find that sometimes I will find some, I wouldn't even say friends, but there is a particular individual that I just admire the way he approaches his study and his work, and the fact that he's completed his PhD. And I messaged him and I say, you don't know you're my mentor, but you are. And that's just by observing how he works from a distance and how he applies himself. And I take things from that. There's another flip side to it, Racquel, that I have personally been trying to deal with as well. And that's when you lose members of your support system. Like I had team members that they were my checks and balances and my let's get it done, move it forward. And then unfortunately, I lost them, some tragically, some through COVID-19. And then I just kind of felt I was like, oh my God, my whole support system is gone. And then everything that I had to do just stopped.
That's tragic.
Just stopped.
Yeah, that's difficult. It means you need a new team. It means, but before you can get a new team, what's critical is that you need to grieve.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to grieve and get past that. And then having grieved, you need to look at who can I find that's similar to this individual that will do these things, the things that they used to do for me and to help me along the way. So that's sad. Sorry to hear about that.
Yeah. And not feel like, but I think through COVID-19, a lot of people have been through that, because people have lost family members.
Yes.
They've lost work colleagues. And it's like they've lost them not just physically, but what they provided in terms of support. And so there are a lot of people I find who are depressed because they feel like there's no one there for them. How do I find someone? Because you're in between almost, how do I replace them? You know, you feel like, oh, this person meant so much. How do I replace them? I don't want to let go of them. How do you get through that space to a space where I think what they want you to do, which is to continue to thrive and be well?
That space is a difficult space to get through. You need to get through with individuals who knew of that individual and what that individual meant. So maybe a lot of the support you need at the initial stages is directly from your family. And I'm assuming now that you have a good relationship with your family. So if you don't have a good relationship with your family, whoever else you had a good relationship with, that represents family. In that sense, that's the person, those are the individuals you need to hang with for a while, just to grieve, just to get past that issue. And then you can start looking. The truth is that some individuals come in our lives and they are there for a moment. Some are there for a lifetime. Some are there just for a period. And the difference to know who is there for the period, for the lifetime, for a moment, it's sometimes difficult to identify, but you do get an opportunity to identify them as life goes on. Who can be your support system? I share quickly of a friend who shared with me, she had someone who was there when she did her BA and her master's and was very much, but the moment she became doctor and she had a number of other letters behind her name, who she wanted to be her support system didn't seem to be able to support her any longer. And you know, she was a little taken aback with that. And I said, listen, you need to remember, if the season has ended, if this person's season has ended in your life, now you need to move on. You don't stop because this season has ended. You need to continue moving on. You will find other individuals as you interface with varying individuals from time to time, and you give yourself an opportunity to get to know other individuals. So that's a critical thing, giving yourself an opportunity to know other individuals. When you get a chance to know other individuals, then you can determine, is this someone who could replace A or B or C? Would they be willing to hold me accountable? And if they are willing, do I approach them? And what would be my relationship with them be like over a period of time? So you now have to learn to rebuild relationships and start again.
One of the things I like about what you're saying is in terms of widening who you know. And that comes through a lot of therapy groups. So I know here in Jamaica, there are several groups that you can be a part of. If there are issues that you have, I don't know if we're mentally at that space though, where we say, okay, I'm going to join a group that's about substance abuse, or I'm going to join a group that is related to health, or what do we do to get there?
The truth is that the people who really want change are not afraid to join groups of this nature. The people who are scouting around, thinking, brainstorming, yes, they will have that kind of fear. They're not so sure, maybe not. Whereas the individuals that are serious, listen, I've been a substance user for a long time. I've lost family, I've lost house, I've lost assets, I barely have anybody. You get serious at some point in time. You say, really, I need this change. Even if it means I'm going to have to give up a couple of things, I want this change. And so those individuals are more willing. I would say they are ready for the change, and they are ready to tolerate the process of change, because the truth is many of us really don't like change. The truth is change requires a number of things, and we are unwilling to go through the process of change, though we want change. Change is a process, and so if you are not willing to go through the process, you will abort even in the middle. Maybe you might be just an inch away from the real thing or what you're looking for, but you get frustrated along the way. So determination, encouragement, those are key things that need to happen in the process of change, and you really need a support system. And you have to identify your support system based on what you want to achieve. So while there are varying kinds of support groups, you have therapeutic groups, you have just general support groups, all of them have an objective. Which of those objectives align with the objectives you wish to achieve for yourself?
One of the things I want you to dispel for me, because I know you work with groups. Sometimes there are people say, I'm not going to sit down with a stranger and chat about my business, because I don't want to hear my business out the road. I have to say, I don't know if it's ever happened, but I have never received information about someone that came from a therapy group.
All right, so you have therapeutic groups of varying kinds. The truth is, you don't just get somebody and put them in a group, you screen them. So we're conducting, let's say we're conducting a behavioral therapy group. What are the behaviors we're working to change? And we list them. If you meet this criteria, then you can become a part of this group. If it's an adolescent focus group, you may consent, your parents have to consent. All right. And then we look at what are the behaviors we're working at, where we're going to change, what are we going to change, what is the process. And we go through the normal group processes, which is forming, norming, and storming, etc. And then we adjourn. And then with therapeutic groups, you want to make sure that they are closed. The preferred thing is to have them closed, because an open group really allows more people to come along as you have meetings. So if you have a stranger or a new person coming along every now and again, persons don't know you, we haven't gotten warm to you, they're going to close down, you're not going to have that kind of progress. So if it's a therapeutic group, the ideal thing to do is to keep the group closed. You start with 7, you end with 7. You start with 8, you end with 8, and the same 8. If it's a support group, depending on the nature of the support group, you can have additions at different points of the way. So let's make it easy. All of us do exams at some point in time. So if you're having a support group to help you to study well, to some individuals study well, they're just not very good test takers. So it's helping you to take your tests well, read your questions well, etc. Then you can bring people along at different points of the group. But you don't want the group to be too big, because one of the things that happen when the group is too big is that you lose people, you lose the connectivity. You as a therapist lose the connectivity you need to have. And so if it's a support group about study, certainly you can add 1 or 2 persons maybe in the 2nd or the 3rd week. But after that, I would not recommend it.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. But I raised it because I want people to feel like if you are in a position where someone says, go to a therapist or go to a group, it's safe to go to a group.
It is safe because we don't just lump everybody or put everybody in a group. We look at what it is that you want to achieve. We actually screen you. So maybe this group is about test taking. Maybe the next group is about managing anxiety. Maybe the other group is about depression, getting past depression, or, so we do screen you to determine what groups you are best suited for. And if you are suited for a particular group, we will notify you. Do you still have an interest to be a part of a group? And so on. So it's not just getting everybody and putting them in a group because they have expressed an interest. Express an interest and actually being interested is 2 different things altogether.
Yeah, I find that, and I think we're addressing it more and more, the stigma related to mental wellness. There are a lot of people who they're aware that they have mental wellness issues, but they don't share it because I guess they're afraid of the stigma. How important is it? I was speaking to someone about workplace, and I was saying, if you don't tell everybody at your workplace, it's important that at least one person that you trust is aware, so that if there are triggers, if there are events that will harm your mental wellness, there's somebody that can step in and be a gap.
So let's talk a little bit about mental health and mental wellness from 2 perspectives. When we see mental health and mental wellness, we look at individuals for functionality. And so the majority of us who would, and I say us meaning people in general, who would have a mental disorder or a mental challenge are not really willing to admit it because we're functional. We can go to work, we can buy our groceries, we can do all the things that normal individuals without any mental challenge can do. And so you miss those individuals simply because they are functional. Now you have those that are not functional, and those are the ones we tend to see and label and stigmatize. So we associate anyone with a mental challenge like the dysfunctional or the individual that's not functional at all. As a result of that, once you hear the word mental health, you think of, this is what's going to happen. You expect something bizarre.
They're mad. I'm going into the parlance that you're not supposed, we don't use. We're trying to get out of, but that's what it is.
Right. So you think the worst of things, you expect the worst of things. And that, again, a lot of that is due to ignorance. We don't spend enough time informing individuals about mental health, mental wellness. What is the difference between mental health and wellness? Wellness involves everything. Health speaks specifically to your emotions and your mental logical thinking and the way you process things. And so because we don't do that, people are ignorant. And if they're ignorant, then you can expect that kind of response. What is the way to do that? Somebody certainly does need to know that you have a weakness, that this is your ill health and this is your challenge, and that there are a few things that may trigger, offset, or even heighten a problem that you already have. And the best person to know that is someone in human resource management.
Okay.
So that they can say, okay, calm the rest of the office members and call the individual, speak with the individual, offer them a day or two to just see if they can get themselves together or find out whether or not they have been keeping their medical appointments and doing the things they need to do to remain well.
In another area that I worked, there was a member of staff that had a mental challenge, but it was serious. But I don't think they felt comfortable enough to share it. So a family member did reach out to me and say, just look out. Today, the person still doesn't know that I know. But and that's why I keep advocating for it, because even in instances that I realize that might be a trigger for him, being in the moment and the moment escalating, sometimes he wasn't even aware that I was in the middle of this, and I could just step in
and advocate quietly.
Hey, come, I said, hey, come here, I want to talk to you about something, and not like this is not your mental. Well, I was like, let me talk to you about something, and just kind of pull them out and move them along. And so I'm a very, very big advocate.
And that's the kind of support that they really do need to have. But I think there is a fear that they also have because they don't feel secure because of how persons behave in response to learning that someone in your office setting may have a mental challenge.
Absolutely. And you know what I like to tell people, Racquel? But the grace of God, it could be you.
And that's what we don't think about. What if the shoe were on the other foot?
Because mental health and mental wellness,
it doesn't have no partialities.
No, sir. It doesn't discriminate.
That's correct.
And sometimes when you talk to people about what might have triggered this, what event, what activity, what trauma, it could happen to you. Sometimes it's a loss of a loved one. Sometimes it's just workload. Sometimes it's so many different things that when we begin to accept that there is just about anything that could trigger this, and that it could any day be you, that we'll be a little bit more supportive and a little bit kinder to people that are going through mental health.
And a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah.
If you're in the public, often enough, one of the things, and again, some of the things you will hear is that two people start to call, and the first thing they say, "You're a madman," you know. And if you treat individuals like that and you respond that way, the person who really has a mental challenge feels it's time to lock down. I really don't want to be told that. I really do have a mental challenge, you know. But it is sad because we also need to realize that just as how you have other illnesses, you have cancer, you have hypertension, you have diabetes, so you have individuals who have mental health challenges.
Well, don't let me start on the other end. That's a whole new episode of persons who are going through illness that and they're afraid to say.
Right.
They're afraid to say. You know, you're diabetic, but you don't want to say. You have hypertension, but you don't want to say. And sometimes I'm like, no, if you're sick, if you're ill, you're ill, and say it. So we have to try to get to a place in society where we don't allow this silence that keeps us prisoner to continue to do so. For persons who are watching and they want to reach out to you, maybe because I want to normalize this, sitting down talking to people, because therapists are people, you know. It's just that they have more knowledge than us and they can help us.
Yes, we are people.
Yeah, they're people. You know, you're not going there to take an exam, you're not going to be judged. Where do they find you, Racquel?
By email, fam.care2005@gmail.com. It's 764719489. And if they send an email or call, I will usually respond.
All right. So you heard that, folks. She's always willing to assist. You see, I keep saying people are there to help. We just have to reach out and accept it. And it's better to accept the help and take yourself from halfway to full than be at halfway struggling on your own. Because you're halfway and you're functional, but you think it's okay. But if you get help, We can fill that glass of oil.
That's correct. You'll move up. Yeah. Not just halfway, you go
all the way up.
All the way up.
Thank you, Racquel, for speaking with us. That's another episode of Halfway Full, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.